Welcome to Nutrition 131. I'm Lauren Fuselier, and I'll be covering the Chapter 1 topic, Food for Health, today. So this week, you'll need to review Chapters 1 and Chapters 2, the PowerPoints, and the textbook information. Watching the lectures always helps reinforce the information, but if I happen to come across one of the quiz or exam questions, I make sure to say hint or take note of this, so that way you can recognize what might be on the quiz and kind of star it. But the best help for your quizzes and your test exams are going to be the textbook information and also the PowerPoints. So to get started, we will first discuss nutrition, food choices, and the American diet. The book defines nutrition as science that studies all interactions that occur between living organisms and food. Learning about nutrition will help us to be informed and more likely to make good nutrition choices, which in turn may not only improve our health, but also reduce our risk of some diseases and may even help us to live longer. Food is what gives us energy and nutrients for everyday life. Nutrients are also defined as substances in food that provide energy and structure and help regulate body processes. The right combination of foods can optimize nutritional health. You don't want too much of any types of food or too little of different nutrients. It's all about a balance. So why do we eat what we eat? Why is this important? Many different factors play a role in determining why we choose to eat certain foods and why we choose to avoid others. That's a hint. Understanding the influence of these factors can shape the way we eat and help us make more healthful food choices. There may be times when we enjoy food, and that is more important than the actual nutrients and nourishment that we get from those foods. Family, cultural, and religious traditions tend to affect our preferences of food. Also, where you're from, where you're raised. Um, like, for example, in Louisiana, we all enjoy some rice and gravy, and perhaps if you're from another country, these foods can be a little bit too spicy or maybe not our first preference. So, food preferences and eating habits are learned as a part of each individual family, cultural, national, and social background. For example, rice is the focus of the meal in the Japanese culture. Okay, and certain religions or religious holidays can also affect what we eat. The availability of food is important. The food environment and convenience is going to affect what is available to an individual or a population. So a food environment is defined as the physical, economic, and social factors that affect eating habits and patterns. So for example, if you do not have a car, maybe your bike is your only way of transportation and you can only get to grocery stores in a 5-mile radius, and the healthy items or the fresh produce is 15 miles away at different grocery stores, that is going to affect your food environment and what you choose and what you normally put in your mouth. Also, the food prices. Everyone knows about inflation going on currently. Advertising, maybe what you see on TV more, on the channel that you view, that can affect what appetizes you. Access to restaurants, and also what food products are available in these facilities. Economic status, the capability to store, transport, and process foods allow a year-round access to seasonal foods. In developing parts of the world, diets can be limited to foods produced locally, and if the local foods are lacking in nutrients, the population's diet will be lacking in it as well. So for example, if a country is not able to produce citrus fruits, oranges, or lemons, and they are not able to obtain this fruit from somewhere else, then that country could be lacking in vitamin C. Socioeconomic status. Your income can affect what you choose to eat, your living conditions, and also your education. So obviously, a person can only buy foods that they can afford. That's dependent on their income, how much they make a day, how much they make a week, their living conditions. We talked about transportation earlier. What kind of equipment are they able to store at their home? Do they have access to a refrigerator or do they not? Do they have a stove to cook fresh ingredients on? Do they not? Are they working on the road all the time and they don't, have access to a cooler? Maybe they have to buy fast food all the time because of their hours on the road. Also, educational level can affect food choices and dietary behaviors. Maybe you get all your nutrition education from TikTok and you think that the only way you can lose weight is to do the keto diet with a bunch of high saturated fats. And so you don't eat any kind of fruits or vegetables and you think that that's what's healthiest to you. All this will depend on what you think, what's around you, and how you're educated. Social and cultural traditions also affect your food preferences. Um, these are learned as a part of your family, who you're around, your friends, your culture, your nationality. Also, we talked a little bit about religions earlier, but for example, Muslims do not eat pork, and Seventh day Adventists are vegetarians. Personal preference. We eat what we like according to taste, smell, appearance, and texture. What we eat reveals much about who we are. Our preferences begin to take shape early in life and actually change as we interact with our parents, our friends, and our peers. Our habits and our social pressures from everyone. Traditions and social gatherings, depending on how many people are around, maybe what you're talking about, what everyone else is eating, that can affect what you eat. Your eating and cooking habits likely reflect what you've learned from your parents. So, for example, if you have been raised to eat 3 meals a day every day, you may have kept that routine. Whereas if you kind of didn't have, parents who packed you a lunch or cooked you a breakfast in the morning, maybe you normally eat one large dinner a day, and that might just be your normal. Everyone's a little bit different. Your emotions, stress can cause changes to food we choose and how much or how little we consume of it. For example, comfort foods kind of release that dopamine, whereas when we are stressed or we want to reward ourselves or anxious, we might want carbs to get that dopamine hit. Or maybe we're the opposite, and if we're stressed, it actually makes us less hungry, so we don't eat as much. Our health status, if we have health issues, this may affect what we eat or how we acquire or prepare our foods. So, for example, someone may continue to eat whatever they like until being diagnosed with a disease that affects their health. My grandfather never wanted to make healthy decisions when he ate until he had a heart attack, and then realized it was essential for him to make better choices. So, food in the 21st century. How many of you cook all of your meals? Probably not many of you. Food processing has made food more convenient, available, safe, and even more calorie dense. So hint, hint, for the average person, about a third of our calories come from processed or takeout foods, which are usually higher in calories, higher in saturated fats, but they're lower in whole grains, dairy, fruits, and veggies than as maybe a prepared meal that you would have at home. Another hint, instead of being concerned with undernutrition and malnutrition, Americans and healthcare workers are now concerned with overconsumption and chronic diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. In 2013, a study showed that the average U.S. diet fell short in the USDA's recommendation of fruit, vegetables, and dairy consumption. However, the U.S. exceeded the amount of USDA's recommendation of consumption of meat, eggs, nuts, and grains. So here are some terms that help define food. Functional foods are defined as whole, fortified, enriched, or enhanced foods that have a potentially beneficial effect on health when consumed as part of a varied diet on a regular basis at effective levels. Processed foods are defined as transforming raw food materials into edible products. Some examples include frozen vegetables, dried soups, dried milk, dried fruit, grains to flour or flour to breads. More choices that require less time to prepare in the kitchen are also other examples of these. So think about the cost of convenience. This is a comparison of having breakfast at home versus breakfast at McDonald's. The same meal has a difference of $5.06. This may not seem like a lot just from looking at it, but this can make a difference for someone eating McDonald's for breakfast every single day or for eating out most of their days that they have a week. So think about the cost of health and its difference in calories and energy. The amount of calories or energy, fat, and sugar consumption depend on various factors such as portion size, ingredient quality, and nutrition density. I always picture Oreos when I think of nutrient density. For example, 4 Oreos have 215 calories. A small apple and a tablespoon of peanut butter has about the same amount of calories. But which one do you think contains more nutrition and will keep you fuller longer? It's the apple and the peanut butter. Apples have fiber, vitamins, and minerals, and peanut butter has protein, so the snack is more nutritionally dense than the Oreos that are higher in fat, specifically that saturated fat. Poor food choices can contribute to nutrition-related diseases such as heart disease, cancer, stroke, respiratory disease, diabetes, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, and potentially even suicide. So start making healthier habits now as preventative measure. Why not decrease your chances of developing these diseases? What would some healthier choices look like to reduce health risks? Choose whole grains, eat more fruits and vegetables to increase your fiber intake, switch to a lower fat dairy and meat products, reduce sugar consumption from added sugars and hidden sugars. So anytime you have more added sugars in the diet, that's going to be a huge increased risk for chronic diseases. This is what the manufacturer is adding to the product. So for example, if you're milking a cow, you're going to have natural sugars from the dairy in that product, but sometimes the manufacturers will add like the additional like cane sugar or raw sugar, and that's going to be considered the added sugar in that product. Reduce sodium or salt consumption through choosing more fresh foods instead of more processed, canned, eating out. Eat a variety of foods for a variety of nutrients, eat correct portion sizes for your body, and eat balanced meals that incorporate all food groups. In the next section, we will discuss how food provides the nutrients. So our bodies depend on nutrients for growth and for maintenance. They provide energy, form structures, and regulate body processes needed for growth, maintenance and repair, and reproduction. We're going to discuss a few different key terms. Essential nutrients must be provided by our diets because the body cannot make it or make enough of it, and we need it to support life. There are 6 classes of essential nutrients: carbohydrates, lipids, fats and oils, proteins, vitamins and minerals, and water. Water is the most important nutrient, being that we cannot survive long without it. So there are 2 categories, macronutrients and micronutrients. Both are important, but carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are called macronutrients because our bodies need large quantities or amounts of them. Our bodies need smaller amounts of vitamins and minerals, so they are called micronutrients. Think microscopic. Another hint is that phytochemicals on the previous slide is a substance found in plant foods that is not essential but may have a health promoting property. Also, make sure you know the term functional foods, which is some substances and foods are not essential for life but still have some benefits to our bodies. Energy yielding nutrients are nutrients that can be metabolized or broken down by our bodies to provide the energy in the body. A hint, carbs provide 4 calories per gram. Protein also provides 4 calories per gram. Lipids or fats provide 9 calories per gram, almost twice the amount of carbs and protein. And alcohol actually provides 7 calories per gram. So if you think sometimes that you're saving calories by drinking vodka and water, actually it's still going to have that 7 calories per gram. Alcohol is not considered a nutrient because it is not needed to support life. So this is a graph showing you 1, your macronutrients, 2, your micronutrients, and which ones actually give you energy. So the only 3 that actually give you energy are going to be your carbs, fats, and your proteins. These are the ones that provide your calories. Okay, water is considered a macronutrient as well, but as we all know, water does not have calories. So it is needed for a lot of the body's functions, or most all of them, but it's not necessarily going to give you energy. Vitamins and minerals are considered micronutrients, and they do not provide a source of energy. Okay. How do nutrients give us energy? So biochemical reactions in the body help to release the energy contained in carbs, fats, and proteins. The breakdown of these nutrients release ATP, which is also energy. Energy is used to maintain body functions and fuel physical work or workouts. So even if you're lying in bed all day, fuel is still needed to provide energy to your brain, your organs, to help you breathe. It's needed to help your heart pump, and all of your other vital organs work. Every cellular reaction, muscle movement, and nerve impulse requires energy. If more energy is consumed than needed, over time, the body will increase primarily fat. It's stored as primarily fat. If less energy is consumed than needed, your body weight will decrease. So, forming structures, most of the weight of the body is due to water, lipids, and protein. Protein forms ligaments and tendons in the body that hold your bones and muscles together. Minerals like calcium form your bone. And then at the cellular level, lipids and proteins make up the membranes that surround the cells. So what is energy and a kilocalorie? Energy is defined as the capacity to do work. The energy in food is chemical energy. The body can convert this chemical energy to mechanical, electrical, or heat. Calorie and kilocalorie actually mean the same thing. They're used interchangeably. Okay, a kilocalorie is a unit of heat used to express the amount of energy provided by foods. That's another hint. 1 kilocalorie is the amount of heat needed to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. The importance of water. You should know that it makes up 60% of an adult's body weight. Because of this, regular fluid intake is vital to maintain adequate hydration, and water is not only found in beverages or drinks, but also in food sources as well. So fruits and vegetables, of course, are high in that water content. There is no storage of water in our bodies, so water loss must be replenished. Anytime we sweat, vomit, breathe or talk a lot, urinate, maybe have diarrhea, that water needs to be replenished. Functions of water in our bodies include lubrication for our joints, transporting fluids, and regulating the body's temperature. Dietary nutrients that serve the body. This is a hint. Carbohydrates provide the most readily available source of energy to the body. Fruit, milk, breads, pastas. Okay, this is another hint. Protein is needed for growth and maintenance of our body structures to regulate and facilitate body processes like fish, meats, eggs, and legumes. Fats are concentrated sources of energy, and you can tell because they have twice the amount of calories almost per gram than protein and carbs do. And foods and lightweight storage form of energy. So an example of fats would be creams, butters, whole milk, avocados, coconuts, and olives. Nutrients in our diet continued. Vitamins and minerals are found in most foods. Fresh food is the best source for both vitamins and minerals because they are sensitive to the environmental factors that can cause a food to lose its nutrient value. Food processing can cause a food to lose its vitamin and mineral content. So, yes, making a smoothie will cause a loss in vitamins and minerals of your produce. Blending and chopping them are processing factors. Supplements can be used to help a person get the nutrients that they need from, so for example, if someone is deficient in iron, they can take an iron supplement. However, they're always going to absorb that nutrient better from a food source. So eating leafy greens or red meats is going to be a better way to absorb that iron than taking a supplement. Regulation of the body. Homeostasis is the physiological state in which a stable internal body environment is maintained. So think homeostasis as balance of the body or stability of the body's processes. The maintenance of healthy blood pressure is an example of homeostasis. Our heart can sense changes in our blood pressure. So it sends signals to the brain, which then sends appropriate instructions back to the heart. If the blood pressure is too high, the heart should slow down. If it is too low, then the heart should speed up to compensate. Metabolism is the sum of all chemical reactions that take place in a living organism. An example of metabolism would be breaking down stored carbs in the body, like glycogen, which is what stored carbohydrates are, to be used as energy for a run. All nutrients, proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, water, vitamins, and minerals help play a role in metabolic reactions throughout the body that stimulate or inhibit the body's processes. Okay, so now we're going to apply what we've learned. So let's determine how many calories are in this popcorn. Let's say you want to eat 2 cups of popcorn, which has 30 grams of carbs, 5 grams of protein, and 8 grams of fat. You can pause this recording if you would like to calculate this on your own, or you can just look below. So there's a total of 212 calories in the 2 cups of popcorn because 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories per gram. To see how many calories are in 30 grams, you must multiply 30 grams by 4 to get 120 calories for the carbs in the popcorn. 1 gram of protein has 4 calories, so to see how many calories from protein there are, you multiply 5 grams by 4 to get 20 calories for the protein in the popcorn. And because 1 gram of fat has 9 calories, to see how many calories there are in 8 grams, you multiply 8 grams by 9 to get 72 calories from the fat in the popcorn. Once you add all 3 of those calculations together, 120 calories from the carbs, plus the 20 calories from the protein, plus the 72 calories from the fat, you get a total of 212 calories for the popcorn. If you need more examples of these, you can email me and I can send you some to practice. The science behind nutrition. The fundamentals of nutrition are developed through the scientific processes of observation and inquiry seen in the figure here. The scientific process follows these general steps. Number 1, make an observation and ask a question about what you observed. 2 would be to form a hypothesis. 3 is testing the hypothesis with an experiment. And 4 is to analyze the data and make a conclusion to communicate the results of the data is number 5. A few key terms to know. Number 1, scientific method. That's the general approach that is used to explain observations about the world around us. Number 2, hypothesis. That's an educated guess made to explain an observation or to answer a question. Number 3, a theory, explanation based on scientific study and reasoning. The steps are observe, hypothesize, experiment, theorize after repeated experimentation with the same measurable results. Nutrition research can help us to determine nutrient requirements, learn more about nutrient metabolism, understand roles of nutrition in health and disease, and by following these steps of scientific processes, researchers can minimize the influence that may arise during a research study, such as bias, prejudice, or coincidence. For example, James Linn's experiment with sailors in the 1700s were considered to be their first dietary clinical trial, which I thought was interesting. He observed that oranges and lemons were the only dietary elements that seemed to cure scurvy, which was an important finding. Scurvy causes muscle weakness, swollen and bleeding gums, loss of teeth, and bleeding under the skin, as well as tiredness and depression. However, it was found to be cured by vitamin C, which is found in citrus fruits like oranges and lemons. Today, molecular biologists study how nutrients influence gene regulatory functions within cells, and studies such as these can be used to study nutrition-related conditions that affect the entire organism. So some ethical considerations in scientific studies. The IRB must approve which studies. So the IRB stands for the Institutional Review Board. McNeese has an IRB for studies done here on campus. You must apply to the IRB and then they will approve before you can start your study, or they may not approve and you may have to fix what you send in. The IRB conducts a review process to ensure ethical, humane treatment of participants and that is required for human and animal studies. So how do you identify reliable nutrition information? Because there is so much out there. So I'm going to tell you a few questions to ask once you get the source of the information. But always ask, does the information make sense? And does it sound feasible? So for example, can an individual lose 40 pounds in 1 week? And if they could, would it be the healthiest way to lose this weight? The answer is no, absolutely not. 1 to 2 pounds is a safe weight to lose each week. So always ask, what is the source of the information given? Is it selling the consumer something? Because a lot of times they just want you to buy in, especially quickly. Is it someone's opinion, or is it backed up by scientific research? If so, check out the study. Who is a legitimate source of information? The salesman selling you the product, or do they have credibility or a degree? And then also, who will it benefit when you purchase this product? Is it based on good science? Is the information based on well-designed, accurately interpreted research studies? Has it stood the test of time? Have there been studies duplicated over a period to show the same results? A single study is never enough to develop a reliable theory. These are all good questions to ask before buying or recommending a product, especially finding the truth about nutrition. Why do nutrition news reports and products claims often seem contradictory? Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Identifying valid nutrition and health info. You need to go to a reliable website on the internet. Usually it's a .gov, .edu, .org. It might be third-party tested. One of the really good websites is eatright.org, which we will use later on in the semester to do some assignments. Also, you can verify with a registered dietitian. Anyone can really become a nutritionist. Anyone can, do the credits available online, but a registered dietitian has to go to school, has to get over 1,200 hours of under a preceptor to pass. They also have to get their master's. So they're normally more credible and have more knowledge about nutrition. And then also you can ask someone who works as a team member in the clinical setting. These are some other good terms to know throughout the semester. I would advise you to familiarize yourself with some of these, which can be found in your textbook. They will be seen for the remainder until December. And remember, a healthy diet is based on a variety of foods, really colors of the rainbow is what you want to think of, balance and moderation.